natural means. They forgot that Jesus was supernatural. He operates beyond what our eyes can see and what our minds can imagine. They never thought that Jesus could walk on the water. Yeah, Jesus, you fed 5,000 people, 5,000 men. You calmed the storm. You healed the paralytic. You healed blind men, demon-possessed people. But they did not think Jesus could walk on the water. That's why they thought it was a ghost, because only ghosts could walk on the water in their minds. So it's like, God, I have a huge problem. I'm up to my eyeballs in debt. I don't have money to pay rent. God, I pray you bless me. We are in a big trouble. We have problems. I just use this as examples. But you have your own problems. You have different kinds of problems. And you come to God and you pray and you say, God, I pray you bless me. Please do this. Please speak to my rich uncle. Or, please speak to my boss. Or to my neighbor. Lord, you said in your word you own cattle in the 1,000 hills. Why don't you sell one of those cows and give me the money? Or, like, okay, God, I'm going to sleep now. In my dreams, please give me 6 numbers. I'm gonna... Yeah. Those are maybe extreme examples, but what I'm saying is when we have a need, we tell God how to solve it. And it's not bad to pray, and some of our prayers are good and according to God's will. But the thing is, we tell God how He could help us. Then God surprises you with an answer that is out of the box. The disciples never expected Jesus to walk on the water. But you know what? Now, on hindsight, it made sense. It made sense to Jesus to walk on the water. Because there were the boats, maybe there weren't enough boats. Maybe, I don't know, but it made sense to walk on the water. When we have problems, and we tell Jesus, Lord, I have this big problem. Could you help us? Maybe you could do this. Please do this. Please do that. And then God surprises us with something that blows our mind. That's the God we serve. He likes to color outside of the circle. And we cannot put Him in a box. We cannot make Him fit into our pattern, into our ritual, into our program. His ways and thoughts are much higher than our ways and our thoughts. But the disciples did not recognize Jesus, but before we judge them, let's look into our own hearts. We also don't recognize Jesus, especially when we are in the middle of the storm. One of you said, I think it was Tim who said, when we are in the middle of the storm, we sometimes focus on the storm. We focus on our circumstance. And we can be blinded by the confusion. We are blinded by the chaos. We're blinded by our fears. By the commotion, what's going on. We fail to see that Jesus is just right there in front of us. It takes eyes of faith to see Jesus, to feel His presence. But the storms, the problems, they have a purpose, right? God uses these difficult seasons of our lives to schedule a meeting with you. These are defining moments that come to you. God allows this to happen, not to harm you, but to invite you into a deep walk with God. God creates these opportunities or allows these circumstances so you can experience the supernatural and the extraordinary, so that you will step out of the boat and experience supernatural trust and communion with God. To experience the power and the presence of God in a more deep way. To do things you could never do on your own. You know why God tells you, come, follow me? Because if you don't follow Jesus, you're going to be stuck in your safe environment. You're just going to go wake up in the morning, take a shower, put on your nice clothes, go to work, come back after work, have dinner with your wife or with your family, sleep. You know, it's going to be a routine. And you know, that's a killer of faith. Routine will kill your faith because then you will become complacent. You will become safe in your own little arrangements. And then when God speaks to you, you will be afraid. Why? Because you have not exercised walking on the water. I have not felt, we have not felt how it feels to be in the presence of God where you cannot explain things. You just know you are in the presence of God. But how can we experience that if we remain in our own little boat and just say, oh, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. Let everyone take risks. Let other people exercise their faith. I'm just going to, be a good person. A lot of times we miss these opportunities where God is saying, come, come, come. Because we are afraid. There were other disciples on the boat, right? We already said, obviously there was Peter, there was Philip, there was Andrew. Maybe there's a whole bunch of them on the boat. But only Peter. Don't you love Peter? Peter is so special. He has a big mouth. He has a big temper. He's very impulsive. But he also was a risk taker. So only Peter got out of the boat and grabbed this amazing opportunity to be like Jesus. To do what only Jesus could do. He owned that moment. I want to challenge you to say yes to Jesus. I know you already said to Jesus, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? But to take that faith into the next level. Life is meant to be lived with vibrancy. That's why we call our church Vibrant Life. Not gloomy life. Vibrant life. Because in Christ, there is fullness of joy. In Christ, there is abundance of love. Maybe our bank accounts are not abundant, but Jesus said, in me, there is fullness of joy. So there is more than just having a lot of material things. Yeah, material things can make you happy, can bring you happiness, but that's just, if we only think of Christianity as having these things, which, by the way, is not true. A lot of Christians, martyrs, died, with barely nothing. But when we see God as only the God who supplies our need, it's just, we limit God. We don't see God in His entirety, which is more than just giving us food, more than just giving us money, more than just giving us clothing. God actually wants to take us into His presence and say, hey, Robert, I want to take you on a road trip with me. Come on, Robert, I'm going to have you experience how it feels to walk on the water. How it feels to be just this very close to me. To be able to smell my fragrance. To be able to see never seen me before. I want to encourage you and challenge you to go deeper in your relationship with God. Deeper means, not deeper like you go into Hebrew or Greek study of the word. No, deeper, which means deeper obedience. Deeper obedience. The problem with a lot of us is we are spiritually obese people. We know a lot of things about God up here. Intellectually, we say yes. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, that's right. I get it. But it's all just here. Right, Tim?
Yeah, you remind me of the guy who had fallen off a cliff and was hanging by a branch, and he said, he said, is anybody else that can help me? And God said, yes, this is God. Let go, and I'll catch you. And he said, is there anybody else up there?
Yeah. Because if he let go, someone would have caught him. Maybe a boat is waiting. Go back to the boat. So intellectually, we agree. Our mind is like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I get that. We have become spiritually obese. And that's why in a lot of Christian circles, when you have a lot of information in your mind, there is a tendency to argue, debate, God, on the other hand, wants us to transform our behavior. It's not just knowing about Christ. It is doing what Christ tells us to do. Transforming our behavior, renewing our mind. That is what it means to have a deeper relationship with God.